Welcome to One Mind Zen. Tonight's Dharma talk is given by Won Sun Min.
We're probably all familiar with those Mahayana sutras with their this baroque imagery that they so often have, where there'll be an infinite number of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, an infinite number of jewels, an infinite number of pure lands, and this wonderful, diverse proliferation of everything in the cosmos. And I used to read those in sutras and sort of dismiss and be like, okay, let me get to the good stuff. And pretty much just dismiss all that and move on to like the real teachings in the sutra. Um, well, Unzan asked us, I believe this was our mission, that each of us who speak in this month to go to a sutra that's important to us and focus on some one thing there to share. And so I'm certainly going to focus on the larger Amitabha Sutra, the longest of the three Pure Land Sutras. So this is kind of part three and the final part of my Pure Land series that seem to have popped up. But I will, as part of this, also sort of address Mahayana Sutras in general. The sort of the visual teachings that I used to dismiss. So the larger Amitabha Sutra contains these ornate descriptions of Sukhavati, the land of bliss, Amitabha Buddha's pure land, the place where many millions of Buddhists around the world chant Amitabha's name daily in hopes that upon death, Amitabha will come to them and take them off to Sukhavati, where they can unhindered practice and attain awakening and then help all other beings to awaken. And so I just want to read to you an excerpt of the description. Of course, the descriptions go on for pages and pages, but here in chapter 14, it talks about these jewels and these jeweled trees. So here, just to give you a flavor. Again, 7 jeweled trees completely fill that land. There are some made of gold, some of silver, and others made of beryl, crystal, coral, ruby, or agate. There are also trees made of 2 to 7 kinds of jewels. There are gold trees with leaves, flowers, and fruits of silver, and there are silver trees with leaves, flowers, and fruits of gold. And it goes on and on with every other combination of metals and jewels that's possible. And again, there are jeweled trees with purple gold roots, white silver trunks, beryl branches, crystal twigs, coral leaves, ruby flowers, and agate fruits, and so on in 1,000 combinations. These jeweled trees are in parallel rows. Their trunks are evenly spaced. Their branches are in level layers. Okay, so it's all very orderly and nice. Their fruits are well arranged. The brilliant colors of these trees are so luxuriant that it is impossible to see them all. With a fresh breeze wafts through them, exquisite sounds of the pentatonic scale, such as kung and shang, spontaneously arise and make spontaneous music. Then he goes on about the Bodhi tree of being basically of infinite size and infinite. It's basically spreading out to the entire cosmos. So a very typical sort of Mahayana Sutra description of things. And so, the characteristics, there's, infinite varieties of things, the infinite size of things. Sukhavati itself is infinite in size, encompassing the entire cosmos and all other Buddha lands and pure lands contained in it. And so besides these infinite range of jeweled trees, there's also infinite types of music, these infinite pools, wading pools or bathing pools for people, such that every individual, regardless of their inclination, finds like the perfectly exquisite and satisfying pool or music or whatever for them. It's like this great pleasure park, which, think about like Buddhism, that seems really antithetical, right? Because there's this, I hear that in Buddhism, there's this thing about craving as the root of suffering and all of that. So it doesn't seem like a pleasure park should really be a Buddhist thing. But maybe that's a clue that I'm missing something when I see that and see this pleasure park, that maybe I ought to look deeper into this. And I think this is common to Mahayana sutras. And the point here is what we're seeing here is a visual representation of the Buddhist cosmos, seeing it in its infinite scale, and the ways that all the things in it are interpenetrating, mutually conditioning. And of course, everything being of its nature being emptiness. And so there's that, but there's also more, and something particular in this sutra. And so this sutra is, spoken by Gautama Buddha. And so it's a teaching, and so what is the teaching of this particular imagery of Sukhavati? And this image with all the jeweled trees and the music, all of it is a teaching. I mean, I think the ultimate teaching of this particular sutra, that it's not a material paradise, it's not a pleasure garden, but so it goes on and describes this infinite variety of trees and jeweled trees and so forth. But then it goes on and it says, when a gentle breeze wafts through its branches and leaves, innumerable exquisite Dharma sounds arise, which spread far and wide, pervading all the other Buddha lands in the 10 directions. Right? So this teaching goes out everywhere. Those who hear the sounds attain penetrating insight into dharmas and dwell in the stage of non-retrogression. Until they attain Buddhahood, their senses of hearing will remain clear and sharp, and they will not suffer from any pain or sickness. Whether they hear the sounds of the Bodhi tree, see its colors, smell its perfume, taste its flavors, and so forth, they all attain a profoundly penetrating insight into the dharmas and dwell in the stage of non-retrogression. Until they retain Buddhahood, their 6 sense organs will remain sharp and clear, and they will not suffer any pain or sickness. And then it goes on to say, like, the types of insights here, insights into reality through hearing, and insight into the non-arising of dharmas. And then, where is it? Not even the names of the 3 realms of suffering are heard here, but only nirvanic sounds of bliss. For this reason, that land is called peace and bliss. So the point of the jewels and the music and so forth that isn't pleasure; it's insight, right? Insight through perception. In this case, through hearing, and hearing has been really important for me for these moments and experiences of insight and so forth. Like hearing things have most often been the thing that has provoked that sort of thing for me. And these insights lead to the cessation of suffering. And so for those folks I've heard folks question whether or not Pure Land Buddhism is somehow, whether or not it's real Buddhism. Well, we look at this teaching of it. You couldn't be any more orthodox than going to, the pointing to suffering and the cessation of suffering. So the point is that properly perceived, all the dharmas, all the 10,000 things are sources of insight. Seeing things in their emptiness and their interpenetration, their mutual conditioning, and perceiving things in this way no longer as a source of dukkha. But instead, what we're looking at here is, in this moment of perception, is nirvana, is the extinguishing of that fuel for the fires of dukkha. And then from within this perception, in the equanimity and the peace of nirvana, we awaken. So this is also, like, think of the 3 natures of yogacara. And so this perception being the third, or the consummated nature, where perceiving things in their emptiness and interpenetration and so forth. So think about our koan practice, and quite often we may give answers that aren't words, right? Because words bring with them all sorts of connotations. They're all really thick with various meanings, and that can really drag us into conceptualizing in certain ways. And so spoken answers are sometimes totally appropriate, sometimes absolutely necessary, but sometimes they're less useful. We might do something visual. We might mime an answer instead, perhaps as a way of rejecting the question entirely, or of simply mirroring the question back on itself. It's a way of answering with fewer connotations and attachments. I think the imagery of these Mahayana sutras is likewise presenting the teachings, but, well, I shouldn't say wordlessly because it's description, right? But it evokes these images. And so like a different slice through the teachings, there's meditative experience, direct experience, there's is one slice, and another slice is the direct word teachings, another slice coming from these images. Some might hit one person one way, another one of those types hits somebody else. And I know, like for me, imagery has been really important. Like the imagery of the Lankavatara Sutra was really essential for me, grasping mind only, for example, or the imagery of the Pure Land Sutras as another slice through the meaning of nirvana, or again, or a way of understanding the three natures of yogacara. And so it's just another way to kind of like help people break through. And so if you do have an inclination towards dismissing this baroque imagery of the Mahayana Sutras, I urge you to not do so, not to dismiss them, that these are the teaching. They can be a guidepost along the way towards to what the cosmos can look like when perceived properly. When perceived properly, that cosmos is the pure land, and in the equanimity of which we can awaken. Thank you. Namo Amitabha Buddha. Namo Amitabha Buddha. Namo Amitabha Buddha.